First, let's get these guys on. Let me grab my notes real quick. Director of the Fighter Operations, Mr. Britton Harden, and the GM of Overtime Boxing, Brandon Rose. Welcome to the PorterWay Podcast, fellas.
What's going on, brother? Thanks for having us.
What's up with y'all?
Shawn, what's the word, brother?
Man, I'm smooth. How y'all?
Good, man. Back in New York City after a roller coaster ride in Atlanta, doing those shows. You saw it.
Tell us a little bit about the roller coaster ride. Remember when I called y'all were going into the 4th week, and I didn't really truly have an understanding of everything. I said, wait a minute, y'all been doing shows once a week for the last 3 weeks. How was that whole, from beginning to end, that experience? This was y'all first time promoting boxing, correct?
Yeah, Shawn, it was an incredible experience. But I want to take a step back from that and just explain how we got there, and then I'll let Britton talk more about the roller coaster ride.
Yeah, no, this your interview all of a sudden, so go ahead.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so I just want to educate people a little bit, the people who may not know what Overtime is, because Overtime has been around now for 6 years as a media company. That was the start. We knew that Gen Z was migrating away or never had TV the way that even I grew up with TV, right? So they were consuming this content, especially through sports on social media, picking their favorite teams through different outlets. So Overtime started with the vision of basically capturing the young audience, millennials and Gen Z. And it just quickly exploded. I've been here for 5 years now, and we've now gotten up to 80 million plus followers across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, basically anywhere where young people are, that's where we are. We then got Liberty Media to back us in our last round. They own Formula One, they own the Atlanta Braves, and we started to push the idea of creating our own leagues. So that's where you saw us, Shawn, in Atlanta, is in OTE, which is our basketball facility in our basketball league, where we have some of the best, basically 16 to 19-year-old basketball players across the world come train in our facility, live there. And we just sent 2 top players to the NBA, the Thompson twins, number 4 and 5 draft picks. So we've really proven out that system from a player development standpoint, a brand sponsorship standpoint, and also a media rights standpoint. We're on Amazon, and we just did an Amazon documentary. Then we launched OT7, our 7-on-7 football league, which is basically in the spring. It's helmetless football. It's the best high schoolers. They then get recruited to college. So as I met Britton and as I started getting into boxing, actually using my hands myself and consuming the content, your content and others, it was very clear to me that there was a lane for what we were doing in basketball and football, but in boxing.
Yeah. Because
the stories in boxing, as we all know, are incredible. The fighters really deserve an opportunity to get their story told. They work so hard, but oftentimes until they get to 24/7 or until they get to all access level, they don't really get that shine. So that was the genesis for why we wanted to get into boxing. And then Britton and I linked up, we started working together, and then all the ideas for OTX started to form and crystallize. So I just wanted to give that background for the people so they could understand.
Perfect.
Why is Overtime coming out of the blue? Who are they? What are they doing? And why boxing? So that's kind of how we got here.
Whose idea was it for boxing? Was it Brandon's idea or Britton's idea?
Yeah, I had been pitching the gospel internally, basically. So my personal story, I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've always been a boxing fan. Obviously, been growing up a fan of Floyd from day one. Remember going to my uncle's house, watching all the pay-per-views and everything like that. But in the pandemic, I actually had an opportunity to start boxing. And then I did the Golden Gloves in New York this year. But throughout that whole process of training, that's when I was kind of seeing everything and pitching it internally.
Did you
but
lose?
Then Britton and I linked up.
Hold on, because you fast forward and pass. Yeah, you fast forward and pass.
Yeah. Don't do my man like that.
No, I don't want to hear that you did Golden Gloves. I want to hear how it went.
How'd that go?
Oh, it was great. I loved it. I got to the semis. I thought I should have won that fight. It was a split decision. And if I would have won, I would have fought at the Garden. But I'm 4-1. Every other win I had was UD. I got a bunch of standing 8 counts through that process. So, I did my thing.
I ain't mad at you. Yeah. But anyway, go
ahead. Yeah. So through that whole process, me and Britton met. We linked up. We shared a vision. He's been in the boxing industry. I'll let him tell his story, but he's been in the boxing industry for years now.
Yeah.
And we basically aligned very closely on everything that we saw and everything we could implement. And we built a relationship basically over a year's time. And then eventually we got the green light and it was time to bring him on. And that's how we got got together.
I'm actually very appreciative that you slowed me down and you went back to the beginning. What I know about boxing is it's a small community. It's a small family. So anybody coming in, if we don't know you, if we don't trust you, we holding our feet out and we saying kick rocks. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's important for people to understand who OTX is, what you guys are trying to do, striving to do. I appreciate you for telling your story because I would not have been able to get there without you. So thank you for that. Britton, real quick, kind of tell everybody your story and where you. Obviously, I know where you come from in the boxing world, but tell everybody, where your roots are in the boxing world.
For sure. So I mean, very similar to Brandon. I grew up a boxing fan. I've been a boxing fan my entire life. As a matter of fact, boxers were like the superheroes for me in my household. My dad would always host fight parties and, I would be at the center of it trying to throw punches and, all his friends would get a laugh out of this little dude, throwing combinations or whatever in front of the TV. But as I got older, I knew that I wanted to be in boxing somehow, but I didn't know how. And you said something that's extremely important. There is no linear path to getting into the boxing industry. There's no class that you can take. There's no, agency that you can work at to go and get the background. You kind of just got to learn. You got to stumble. You got to fall. You got to meet people. And it takes a long time to get to a place where you really feel like an expert in the space. What, maybe you don't even know about me, Shawn, is I spent almost 10 years in between CAA and WME. Those are two of the largest talent agencies in the world. And I was learning business development. I was learning licensing. I was learning how to enterprise. I was learning how to build business around talent. Mm-hmm. And all the while I'm working there and getting promoted throughout the years, I'm pitching boxing and I'm saying, because I'm so close to the sport, Floyd Mayweather's walking away with these kind of checks, or, such and such fighters walking away with these kind of checks. If we represented these fighters for their in-ring activities, we will be getting a percentage of that. At the time, I would say that they weren't getting the vision as fast as I wanted them to. Yeah. And so I knew that it was time for me to go out and kind of start getting to that on my own. At the time, I was living in Los Angeles and I had been in a number of different gyms, from Glove Works to pound for pound boxing to a wild card and the list goes on. And I'm making friends with these fighters and these coaches, and they become to know me as the guy who works at the agency. And so they would send me their contracts and they would say, hey, would you look at this contract for my fighter? It's a new promotional deal, or it's a new such and such deal that somebody just put in front of my fighter. But, they didn't really know how to evaluate contracts. They knew that I had that knowledge. And so they would trust me with that. And I wouldn't charge them or want any percentage for anything, because this is where I wanted to be the entire time. Right. And so I took that as an opportunity to just learn the contracts, learn the way that the business was being established, and, just started to sign fighters on my own and became a boxing manager after I left the agency space. I did that for nearly 4 years. That's where you and I met when I was, working with Brandon Adams. Yeah. At that point, I started to recognize that there were some low-level opportunities that some promotions and some networks just weren't taking advantage of. And so I pitched it to a number of different companies, Overtime being one of them. And Brandon got my email. And within 2 days, he and I were on a Zoom call similar to this, just, going back and forth on how we saw the sport and how we thought we could be additive, how we thought that we could benefit the sport, the kind of talent that we liked. And like he said, over the course of a year, we really came to see that we had a very clear vision that was pretty much the same. Yeah. And he had been kicking around the idea and pitching it to whoever would listen to him internally at Overtime. And a year later, here we are today, having promoted our first 4 shows. There's a lot of nuance and context in between that I don't have time to share. But I think that, the most important thing is Overtime is an innovative company that believes in positive disruption. And that's what I love about the company. And in the short time that I've been with the company, Brandon says, we do these calls together. It's like, Brandon's like, I've been there 5 years. I've been like, I've been here 5 minutes. Yeah. In the very short amount of time that I've been with the company, man, I got out on that road and signed nearly 50 fighters for the 4 events that we did in August. It was a lot of fun. It's what I love to do. And, Overtime has given me an opportunity to do that on a very large platform, and I appreciate it.
Either one of you guys can answer this. Why did you refer to positive interruption?
Disruption.
Disruption.
Yeah, I'll start and then Britton build on it. I think our whole thing coming into the sport has never been that we're going to try to take over the sport or we're going to try to compete with, top ranked Matchroom, PBC. They do what they do and they do it well. But we also have a lane of what we can do well, right? We have, like I said, 80 million social media followers. We do 2 billion video views a month. So if we can take the young fighters and we can give them a presence that they're not used to, or we can give them experience they're not used to, it can be positive for the sport. So I don't think it necessarily as disruption as much as being an addition, because we're just a new element that I think is positive for everybody. And from the beginning, what we told all the promoters, and we have good relationships with all of them, is that we'll do a deal with anybody who wants to do a deal as long as it makes sense. So we had DeBella fighters, we had Golden Boy fighters, we have a great relationship with Matchroom because we're on DAZN. We haven't mentioned that yet. We're on DAZN this year. So we couldn't do a deal necessarily with someone who was cross network. But in general, they all see the value because we just do something that they don't do, right? And they do things that we don't do. We're not trying to do Crawford versus Spence pay-per-view at T-Mobile because that's not our business. But what we definitely can do is we can take a young fighter, a prospect, or contender and bring them to a next level because of the visibility they get. We can take a great fighter like Albert Bell, who, is near a title shot, and we can create a viral moment where he's getting 2-3 million views on social media. And now all of a sudden his market value has changed. He's gone up in the rankings. And now we could potentially do a co-promotion with Top Rank or someone else. So again, we're additive to the sport. We work with everybody. We're not trying to, outcompete Top Rank, like I said, because one, we don't have the pockets. And two, I think a lot of people came into boxing, Triller and others, thinking, okay, I got $1 billion and I could just go buy it. And I don't think that's necessarily the best way to approach it. We've always come in kind of building up from the grassroots, right? Going in, like Britton said, he literally went on the road to probably, 20 different gyms, maybe more than that.
I feel like Britton called.
He was never in the office.
Britton, we spoke on the phone, right?
Yes, we did.
I thought so. Yeah, we spoke on the phone. Yeah, he definitely on his job. Although you hit me back, I wanted that fight. You hit me back though.
Don't say what happened.
Yeah, what happened?
We not done. We're not done yet.
We just getting started, brother.
You might be getting a call from me soon. You never know.
Not like that. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna hold you to that. Hey, tell everybody some of the unique qualities that OTX brings to boxing.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take that one, man. One thing that, and I can speak for Brandon when I say this, we pride ourselves on is we did a lot of research and we spoke to people that we want to be fans of boxing. Like we understand that, to your point again earlier, Shawn, like boxing is a small community and you can have a lifer fan, right? Somebody like myself and Brandon who just grew up in the sport. We love it. But then we also wanted to be able to attract the casual fan. And we didn't want them to be afraid of, having to learn a new sport or struggling to understand it as it's going on. So we did a lot of research, talking to people, trying to understand the things that they like about boxing and what they don't. And some of the things were just like, very low hanging fruit. Like they don't like draws, right? They don't like to see a draw. You see two people in the ring and they're fighting. One person deserves to win. So what do? We developed the overtime round, wherein if you have an 8-round fight and the fight is split 4-4 and the judges call it a draw, well, now you have an opportunity for a winner take all round where the winner of that round will be the winner. And we had an opportunity to experience an overtime round while we were, doing our series on the ground in Atlanta. And the audience loved it. The stadium was electric. The roof almost blew off of the building. And so it's like those kind of moments you can't make up. That kind of energy is palpable when you feel it. And so we really appreciate, just the audience for being receptive to the innovation that we're trying to bring or the new ideas that we're trying to bring to the sport, because in essence, we're trying to just fulfill maybe what they see as a void. The other thing is it's done in other sports, but not so much in boxing. where we are we're implementing fighter bonuses. So we're incentivizing the fighters to always press for the action. If you get a knockout in the first or the last round, we're giving you kind of what we call a bump up bonus. And if you get a knockout in any round in between, you get a pretty good bonus on top of what your guaranteed purse is. And that's to one, get rid of the filling out process in the first round. Go for it. If you feel like you got the knockout, go for it. And then the last round, if you're winning, you might as well finish that guy off, right? So the audience was really receptive to that. The fighters really appreciate it. And, you never know. You might see some more innovation from us in the next iteration.
I like that. When do you guys expect to come back?
That's exactly what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
So we wanted to get back in the lab. I think what we always said is we're going to do this 4 series as a tentpole. And a lot of people thought we were crazy for that, right? 4 in 1 month. That's almost how we started the conversation, right? But what we knew is that if we created a momentum in that month, that it would be something different, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen a tentpole like that because we're not going to be able to do Crawford Spence or Tank Ryan. That's not what we're going to be able to come out the gate and do, but we could do something different. So that's why we created that Atlanta club vibe in the venue. That's why every week you saw more and more celebrities in the building, why our phones were blowing up, everybody hitting us for tickets, and we were getting stressed out by the 4th week. Like, how are we going to seat these people? You saw Melo and Steven Jackson sitting next to us ringside. So it was just a vibe in the venue. So that's what we wanted to focus on, is build something special for the fighters that they want to come back to, build something special for the fans, and try to create an experience in the venue that's just different. And I think we accomplished all of that. We had a happy sponsor in C4. DAZN's really happy with it. So right now, we're going to spend a couple weeks, get back in the Bat Cave, as I say, and replan everything. But we having a lot of good conversations. A lot of things are coming our way. Some of the bigger promoters are wanting to collaborate. Some big names are calling us as well. So we're going to sit down, evaluate everything. But I think at a minimum, kind of OTX owned shows, we're going to do more next year, certainly. And as we look for continuity with some of the fighters that we had this year, we're definitely going to keep them busy, because one of our tenets is keeping the fighters active like they used to be in the old school. I mean, people would fight 10, 15 times in a year. I'm not saying we're going to get to that level, but I think, especially the fighters at our level, prospect stage, we should get them at least 4 fights a year. And one of our tenets is competitive matchmaking, because what we know from the fans and the fighters is that a lot of them are ready for a step up, and to get higher in those rankings or to get higher purses, they have to beat tough competition, just like you did, Shawn. I mean, you're the blueprint for that, right? So that's some of the things that we're thinking about, but we're definitely going to go bigger and better going forward.
I think a couple more things for me, and then you guys can go. Do you got anything for him?
No, I'm just. First, I want to say
you enjoying the conversation.
I am. I'm loving what y'all doing, man. I'm loving this, because boxing for real is like an old boys club. Like the people that is running it, they running it, and they passing it down to their people. There's no real lane for anybody else to come in and start something new and do it. So I love that you guys have appealed to the social media aspect and removed yourself from, like you said, competition with them, because you can't really compete with the top ranks, the Golden Boys. They got it on lock. So you guys created your own lane, and you're doing it your way. So I'm a fan. So make sure you hit my line. Give me one of them joints. Let me beat one of them fighters up. You know what I'm talking about. Let me beat him up. Let's get it.
Where else can people see the things that were done down there in Atlanta those previous 4 weeks? I know obviously there's stuff still on DAZN. I'm imagining. Where else can they go take a look at this content that you guys got from OTX?
Yep, you can watch all the full shows on DAZN. They're currently up there. DAZN has highlights on their YouTube, so if you want to catch kind of the 10-minute YouTube vibe, you can do that. And then you can follow us at Overtime Boxing on Instagram or TikTok. All the highlights, social media clips are all there. So, those are kind of the main places you can check it out.
And you guys have now basically established a boxing channel, just like the basketball channel, just like the football channel that you had.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And our social media team, I mean, Gabe on our team, he's a wizard, man. We hit over 1 million followers between Instagram and TikTok already. Account's been live for 3 months. We did over 200 million views in those 3 months. So we're off. We're off, man. It's up.
Another important component to OTX that I feel is extremely important, and I want to make sure that, or not make sure, but I want to ask you guys, the stories of the fighters, those are highlighted for everyone on the card or everyone that's going to be promoted on OTX. And this is what I was telling them. Like, if you fighting the first fight of the night at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, first of all, it's 17 people at the fight to see you fight. And then after that, you're done. You in the stands after the fight. Don't nobody even know that you fought.
That's right.
Down there, top fight to the bottom fight, they got an entire profile on you. And you can go watch and see what that person's all about.
That's dope.
And kind of elaborate more on that for me, please, if I'm wrong. But you guys got somewhere for you can take a look at these fighters and see who they are, you know?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely,
really
Shawn. And that was strategic. That wasn't by accident. You know, to Brandon's point, man, when we first linked up, we wanted to establish that there needed to be respect and admiration for these athletes who go out and put their lives on the line for our entertainment. And so it benefits no one for you not to know the gladiator that just got out of the ring, right, as they're walking through the arena. We want every fighter to feel like the biggest star when they walk through a OTX tunnel before they get into the ring. You have no idea, well, you guys, but like the audience, for the most part, will have no idea what that can do to the psychology of a fighter when they're treated like a star. They show up. And we had a number of upsets because these fighters were treated like stars. We went out to go do profiles on them. From the moment they touched down in Atlanta, we treated them like they were the athletes that were putting their lives on the line. So, me and Brandon really care about these fighters. We handpicked every single one. We went out and signed them. I got on the road, like Brandon said, and went to 20 plus different gyms, signed all of these fighters, did a lot of diligence on the matchmaking and the fighters, because the idea is we want to find people who not just can fight and are good at social media, but who have those, human life stories, those interest stories that we know people will gravitate towards. And when you think about what will cause somebody to fight for a living, every fighter has a dynamic story. And so we wanted to highlight that and pay tribute.
Yeah, very good. Last but not least, as promoters of boxing now, OTX, how do you guys feel about being promoters in boxing, professional boxing?
I'll start. You can go second. I love it. It's fun. I think that's the easiest way to put it. We both love the sport. We both compete in the sport. We were just over at Gleason's getting some sparring in this weekend. I ran home from work, lifted weights, got on this call. That's what we do. We wake up, we think about boxing. We then go to the gym and box. We sleep thinking about boxing. So for me, it's really a passion project. We really love it. We're really having fun with it. And our company's behind us to make it successful. And we're trying to create entertainment and create art, as Britton would say. So it's always about how can we create a vision? How can we make something different? And again, be additive to the sport that we love. So it's been great.
Very good.
Can I ask you, who do you train with in Gleason's?
I train with Jihad at Gleason's.
Okay. Do you know Blimp?
Yeah, I know Blimp. I know Don. I know Kat. All of them. That's how we got Scooby, because Scooby trains with Don over there. Okay. Saxby, so we're always in the gym.
That's what's up.
Yeah, man. And I'll just follow up by saying this is all I've ever really wanted to do, So this is a dream come true for me. I'm on a cloud right now. People ask me, like, have you come down? And I'm like, no, like, I'm having a moment. Let me stay here. You know what I mean? To have the opportunity to service athletes that I've always saw as superheroes, it's just, there's no words that I can really put to that, except for that I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do my best every single day. We have this running joke to try and create art, right? Whether it be in the arena, in the fights, with the stories, whatever it is that we're doing, we're really putting forth our best effort. And to Brandon's point, we were just sparring on Saturday, waking up and going for 3-mile runs before we hit the office, getting off work, going back to the gym, because we want to know what these fighters experience and what their lives are like, so that when we are catering to them, we really understand what we're talking about. We had an experience where, and I won't say any locations or any names, but we went to a gym and we were working out, we're hitting the bag, and this fighter was like, you guys work at OTX? And we're like, yeah. And I just happened to ask him, like, when's the last time your promoter got in the gym and worked out with you? And he's like, man, this never happened. Right. And that just made us, like I looked at Brandon, we both were like cheesing ear to ear because we know how much that means for a fighter. Right. For them to see us putting in the same grind that they're putting in. So, man, this has been amazing. It's been a dream come true, and we just want to put forth our best foot and our best effort.
I know that wasn't no Golden Boy fighter because Bernard Hopkins still be at the gym. That wasn't no Golden Boy fighter. Hey, I appreciate you guys, man. Good luck for everything moving forward. God bless you guys for everything moving forward, and I look forward to having you back on the podcast as soon as y'all got something popping. Let me know.
My boy, you also got to tell me where you got them couches from. Them couches too sexy, man. Emerald green, gold touches.
You would laugh at me if I told you where I got them from, so I'm not going to do that.
All right.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey,
Thanks
bless
for
y'all.
us.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
Yes, sir. That is OTX. I'm impressed. I think people in the boxing world who've come across them, the fact that they're two young black men doing it has really kind of caught fire. And not to say too much about their business model, but it's what I've always said. In order for boxing to move forward, get bigger and better, you got to involve people that don't come from this sport. You said it. This ain't nothing but some hand-me-down stuff, and it's going the same way. No disrespect to anybody, but then here comes something brand new, something innovative, and something to get these fighters up and going.
I agree.
There's really, I don't know if there's really no A side, B side over there. He said we had some upsets, but that means the B side ain't really performing like a B side.
And boxing is really going in that direction anyway. Like there's no real A side, B side. That's not really mattering when fighters. I think post COVID, because a lot of these B side fighters was at home on COVID, not working, training. So now B-sides out here turning up. So I'm liking the way boxing's going. I love what they were just talking about. Love to see young black men working like that, staying locked in. So it's dope. Brent hit my line. I'm trying to fight. Call me, hit my phone.
And Rob Boogie, these couches is sexy, okay? You just mad because I ain't gonna go out.